Glenn Greenwald is going to go on CNN here to debate Ruth Marcus of the Washington Post, who is very anti-Edward Snowden. And I've now dubbed Glenn Greenwald, as a result of what you're about to see here, the Michael Jordan of debating.
Quote, he may have committed a crime, but he has done his country a great service. It is time for the United States to offer Mr. Snowden a plea bargain or some form of clemency. Joining me now is Glenn Greenwald, investigative journalist for First Look Media. He broke scoop after scoop on the NSA using information that Snowden gave to him. Also with me here in studio, Ruth Marcus, columnist for the Washington Post, who just wrote a piece calling Snowden a, quote, insufferable whistleblower. Ruth, I'm going to start with you. The Times board also writes, when someone reveals that government officials have routinely and deliberately broken the law, that person should not face life in prison at the hands of the same government. Do you agree with the Times that Snowden should get some form of clemency?
No, I don't. In fact, I think he should have, if he really believes in the Constitution, as I wrote, he should have stuck around, tested the constitutional system, taken his punishment, argued that he was justified in the leaks that he did. He didn't. He just turned tail and fled the country.
Glenn, I'm sure you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I want to say two things. I think Ruth Marcus's argument exemplifies everything that's really horrible about the D.C. media. First of all, what she said is just completely factually false. If he had stayed in the United States, as Daniel Ellsberg, widely considered to be a hero by most Americans, argued in the Washington Post, he would have been barred from making the very argument that she just said he should have made. Under the Espionage Act, you're not allowed to come into court and say, I was justified in disclosing this information. There is no whistleblower exception in the Espionage Act, which is why whistleblowers don't get justice in the United States. But I think the really important point is that people in Washington continuously make excuses for those in power when they break the law. Ruth Marcus was one of the leaders in 2008 saying that Bush officials that torture people shouldn't be prosecuted, they should be protected. She praised and protected FBI agents in the 70s who entered people's homes without warrants and were criminally prosecuted. She said they shouldn't have been prosecuted. That's what people in Washington do. They would never call on someone like James Clapper, who got caught lying to Congress, which is a felony, to be prosecuted. They only pick on people who embarrass the government and the administration to which they're loyal, like Edward Snowden. It's not about the rule of law. All right, first of all, why won't Ruth Marcus answer the question, should the top officials in the Obama administration, to which she's a loyalist, why shouldn't they, after they got caught lying by the documents that Mr. Snowden came forward to publish? Remember, when I met him in Hong Kong, the first thing he said to me is, I have documents proving that the top national security officials in the U.S. Congress have been misleading the public and lying to Congress, which is a crime. And he gave us the documents that showed that James Clapper lied when he denied that the U.S. government was collecting data on millions of Americans. Why won't she answer the question, should he be prosecuted for him having broken the law, just like she said Edward Snowden should be? And I'll tell you the answer, because people in Washington who are well connected to the government, like she is, do not believe that the law applies to them. They only believe that the law should be used to punish people and imprison people who don't have power in Washington or who expose the wrongdoing of American political officials.
She is laying bloody on the floor, and the police are coming by to do the chalk outline of her. I mean, oh my goodness. Glenn Greenwald is so right and so adamant that I really felt like I was a referee in a boxing match and I wanted to get in between them and be like, all right, man. It's like Mike Tyson fighting this, nobody in his prime. Like, all right, dude, all right, you're going to kill him if you hit him one more time. Please stop it, stop. It's hard to watch. No, but it's so true. Everything Greenwald says is 100% correct. This is the oldest trick of the establishment. And I'll give you a good analogy, too. Think back to the Iraq War and when Fox News covered it. What was their trick? They would cover the people who would talk about the Iraq War and say, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. So you get outraged about the people talking about the Iraq War instead of getting outraged at the Iraq War. Well, there's the same thing going on here. Edward Snowden realizes that the government is doing something wildly illegal, wildly unconstitutional. The Fourth Amendment protects us from unreasonable search and seizure, but they're collecting everybody's metadata, everybody's information, everybody's emails, everybody's stuff on the computer, even if you type in something and delete it. I mean, it's the clearest violation of the Constitution ever. So he releases that information, and what do the defenders of the establishment do? They talk about the person who exposed the illegal acts like he's the one that did something illegal and did something wrong. No, he's the one that exposed the government doing something illegal and doing something wrong. No, but it really shows you it's the old Nixon mentality. If the president does it, there's nothing wrong with it. No, that's totally wrong, and that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. The whole purpose of the United States of America is that the law applies to us equally. I mean, the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection under the law. So what are we talking about here? This isn't a debatable premise that if somebody in power does it, it's right by definition. That's an authoritarian regime. That's a dictatorship. That's fascism. But these know-nothing journalists, and that's really what they are, they come out there and they arrogantly argue that Edward Snowden, he's the bad guy, he did something wrong. No, what Edward Snowden did was pick up the fucking Constitution, read it, looked around him and said, holy shit, this is fucked up. This is exactly what the founders warned against. So, Glenn Greenwald, my hat's off to you yet again for doing what you do best. I now officially declare you the Michael Jordan of debating.